Welcome to Mystic Hammers. Loktar Ogre!
Thank you for joining me at Mystic Hammers for the guide on the Voidfire Deathcycle mount.
Warning. Contains flashing images.
Today I will be guiding you through this comprehensive guide, including the added process of creating the irresistible red button through work orders for non-engineers, and where you can obtain piles of rusted scrap. For engineers, I will show you the best place to farm the piles of rusted scrap. First off, you will need to make your way over to the modern Donegal, which you can portal to from Orgrimmar or Stormwind. Once you are there, you will need to look for my maker Soridormi, which you will find marked on the map below, identified by the little eye icon. This will initiate the horrific visions. Once you have spoken to Soridormi, she will point you in the direction of Orgrimmar to the right. Orgrimmar will guide you through the hourglass of horrific visions and the displaced corrupted mementos system. Making your way through the horrific visions, you will gain displaced corrupted mementos, currency. You will need to spend that currency with Orgrimmar to progress your talent tree further at the hourglass. This will allow you to stay within the visions longer and gain more currency each time. If you are playing the visions solo, you will only need to progress the left and middle columns within the talent tree. The left will help you do more and take less damage. The middle column will help in preventing loss of sanity, which basically works as a timer. The very first talent you unlock is the Orb of Restoration, which will allow you to restore your sanity up to 3 times within the vision. As I say, if you're playing solo, I wouldn't waste your mementos on the third column, as you can buy armor, mounts and more just to the left of Soridormi. When you have maxed out your talent tree and had some practice at the visions themselves, you will be in a good position then to go for your first mask, the Faceless Mask of the Long Night. This mask is a reward for completing a whole vision. This means defeating all 5 bosses and exiting either vision safely, before your sanity runs out. You will need the Faceless Mask of the Long Night in order to progress in this guide. Although any mask will do, the Mask of the Long Night is the first you will be able to achieve. You will need to actively be wearing any mask to interact with the Voidfire Deathcycle frame within the Stormwind vision. I will leave a link in the description for my guide on how to obtain this mask. Upon obtaining the Faceless Mask of the Long Night, go ahead and place it on the altar shown below. Now you are ready to progress to one of the exciting parts of the guide, obtaining the frame of the bike itself. The guide becomes easier from this point on. Now we can jump into the Stormwind vision, hop on the mask and talk to the Black Prince to begin the vision. You will want to mark up the Dwarven district on the map. You can do this before you jump into the vision to save sanity. Then head over to the auction house, where you will find Haymar the Devout riding the Deathcycle. He will now appear upon wearing a mask. When within range, he will attack on the Deathcycle. Be sure not to do too much damage straight away. Wait for him to throw the bike. Attacking heavily will damage the bike too much, preventing you to interact with it. When you've defeated Haymar, you will be able to interact with the translucent frame and extract it from the vision. If you are struggling with the visions at this point with the faceless mask of the Long Night, this is because the mask of the Long Night affects your sanity drain and will drain faster. It is easier to use the faceless mask of the Pained, which doesn't affect your sanity. I'll provide a link below for that mask, as I have made a guide for that also. As you can now see, we have an awesome ghost of a bike now visible out of the vision. When you interact with it, you'll see hints of the parts needed to build the final product. We will now need to collect a few parts within the visions to fix it up. The first two parts will be easily found within the visions. Make sure to be wearing a mask in order to find these parts. One will be in Orgrimmar and one in Stormwind. The Void-forged engine block and the magic-lined manifold. I will show you all the parts needed within the visions first, then I'll move on to the vendor items before moving on to the next section of the guide. The Void-forged engine block can be found here in the Orgrimmar vision as shown below in the engineering shop, located in the drag area. The next part, the magic-lined manifold, can be found here in a crate outside the auction house in the trade district of the Stormwind vision. The next parts we need will now come from defeating bosses in the visions. Upon finishing a vision, loot that boss's corrupted chest at the end to receive the part. It doesn't matter if you die, as long as you defeat the stipulated boss. To obtain the next item needed, the Void Flame Resistant Hide and the Tentacle Spokes, you will need to clear the Valley of Wisdom in the Orgrimmar vision. You will also gain the Faceless Mask of the Burned Bridge. Again, make sure you're wearing a faceless mask for all parts within the visions, as you won't find the parts needed in the chests at the end. Next up is the Orgrimmar vision again for the Void-scarred Boarhide, which you will need to complete the Valley of Honor area marked on the map below. You will also receive the Faceless Mask of the Daredevil. Both will be found in Rexar's chest at the end of the vision once again. The rest of the parts will now be found in the Stormwind vision, so head over and complete the Dwarven district to obtain the parts needed for the second wheel, the Void Flame Resistant Hide and the Tentacle Spokes. We now need to complete the Old Town area for the Twisted Skull Scythe handlebars. You will also gain the Faceless Mask of the Pained. As mentioned beforehand, I will leave the link below for the guide on how to obtain that mask. The depleted Void Crystal part will be the hardest of the parts to obtain, not as hard as the Faceless Mask of the Long Night though, so head over and complete the Mage District. I will leave a link to that guide in the description below. The depleted crystal and the added bonus of the Faceless Mask of Dark Imagination will be in Umbric's chest at the end. Well done for getting the crystal. That's it for the visions. Next up is the vendor items. For the most part you will be able to buy them from the auction house. But beware, the items needed need to be tier 3 items. It will display what tier they are next to the named item marked by 3 gold diamonds. You won't be able to put the parts together on the bike unless they are tier 3 items. You will just end up wasting some well-earned gold. That said, one will be the exception, the pile of rusted scrap. I will walk you through that part soon. I will list below all of the parts needed at the auction house. And that's it for the auction house. Next up are the items we can't buy at auction, so we are going to need to head off to Pandoria next, in search of an NPC named Big Keech. You will soon be building that Deathcycle. First we will need to make our way to the Vale of Eternal Blossom, next to the Siege of Orgrimmar, where we need to speak with Zidormi in order to phase out of the Midnight expansion to find Big Keech. You will find Zidormi on Margushan Palace. Now we've phased into the correct time and place, make your way down to Big Keech, who we will find at the bottom by the Siege of Orgrimmar. From Big Keech, we need to buy 4 goblin machined pistons and 1 elemention plated exhaust pipe. This will cost 5,500 gold in total. You may be able to buy 4 of the same item in one go. I ended up paying for the same item 4 times. The very last item needed for the Voidfire Deathcycle, also known as the Fell Reaver Deathcycle, is the Irresistible red button, which will be the last section of this guide before we can finally build the bike. For engineers, this will be quite simple. If you are level 20 in your profession, you will be able to craft this at an engineering station. For non-engineers like myself, I went for blacksmithing. You will need to place a work order, which is a simple process and works very much like the auction house. Just speak to a peacekeeper in Donegal and he will direct you to work orders. To create a work order, type in what it is you wish to have made, add a polite note to the crafter. They need to make a wage, so add a sensible amount in the commission box, set the duration, and place your order. I got my order within 10 minutes. You will need to supply all items for the order. All the items needed for the crafting order can be brought at the auction house next door. You can track all the items needed within the crafting order, except you can't buy the pile of rusted scrap at the auction house, unless you're an engineer, so some people may struggle in finding 10 of these. I know I did, but I have you covered. So go on over to next door and get what you can from the auction house, then we can move on to the next part of the guide, where I will show you where you can get 10 piles of rusted scrap. First stop is the supply foreman Dresmel, at the engineering shop in Donegal. At this location, I will pull the map for you. Here you can buy 3 or 4 piles, which is the maximum daily restriction. If you don't want to wait 8 hours and 59 minutes, you can head off to our next location to buy 3 or 4 more there. Next up on our travels for the rusted scrap is the City of Threads, which you can find here on the map below. You will need to speak to Ruku for your next purchase. I can't remember the currency needed here. If you have played War Within, I am hoping you too have the right currency. Next stop is Paxton Bombshell in the Ringing Deeps, so not far from our last stop. I came across a list of engineering vendors on wowhead.com and I visited many. Not all of them sell the scrap needed, but through trial and error, I found that all vendors in the war within expansion do. And that's it for non-engineers. You will now have all the scrap needed as long as you had the currency for Raku. I should say the piles of scrap is the only item that doesn't need to be tier 3, any old scrap will do. This bit is for the engineers. If you want to farm the scrap, this is the spot for you, though you won't need the scrap needed to pick up orders. Here in Hallowfall next to Lights Blooming, has to be the best spot or farm for farming. Here you'll find dark crazed harvesters galore, and the best thing is not everyone is an engineer, so even if all mobs have been cleared, you can follow up behind for some easy looting. And this is the final stage of the guide. We are now ready to get the best looking mount in the game. In my opinion, I'm not keen on the Goldfell Reaver. I don't do gold, I'm a silver person myself, and with the new Midnight expansion this bike suits better than ever. Let's get our tunes greasy. I don't even mind that it's not a flying mount, I get to see more of the game. Now on 2 wheels. And I should mention you don't need to level up any in-game riding skill. Unlike some other bike mounts, you can jump on this mount from the off. Now you can click on all the parts collected from the visions in your bag with a right click. It will automatically use up the items you brought and paid for, then all you have to do is interact with the Deathcycle. Click on the hints it gave, only this time a little speech bubble will now appear with a command, for instance, saying install the new seat. Click the text with the bubble and install the part. Repeat this process for all parts and press the Irresistible red button when prompted. I'm getting excited for you at this point. Follow the instructions until, bam, you have yourself a Deathcycle. I really hope you enjoy this mount as much as me. I really enjoyed making this guide and playing the visions. It was definitely fun. Leave a like if this helped and welcome to the Voidfire Deathcycle crew. Time to burn up the streets of Azeroth. Enjoy showing this one off. I know you will. Final words from me. Please Blizzard. We need an engine that rumbles in a future update. And that's it from me on this one. Until next time, I'm out.
Thanks for watching. Game on! Ha ha!